The first question you are finding is functions of reticular formation. This is from CNS. Let me open the textbook. So what is reticular formation? Shall we? Reticular formation is nothing but diffuse group of nuclei which you see in the brainstem. Collection of the gray matter containing nuclei within the brainstem. That is reticular formation. Okay, we'll go into CNS chapter 901 page. See here beta, so reticular formation. So diffuse mass of neurons and nerve fibers which are forming a ill-defined meshwork of reticulum in the central portion of brainstem. First of all, you should write definition. That is nothing but the mass of neurons. That is nothing but gray matter what you see in the brainstem. So we find see reticular formation in the brainstem and it is extending downwards towards spinal cord and extending upwards towards thalamus and subthalamus. Now what are the various nuclei you have here? You need to see. You have like these headings like raphe group of nuclei, paramedian, lateral group, medial group and intermediate group. Okay, so instead you can also see you have to memorize either of these better. So the group of nuclei what you find in the medulla oblongata, these are the list. In the pons what are the nuclei we have and also in the midbrain. Okay, so like we have seen in thalamus also so many nuclei are present. No, similarly here also we have many nuclei. Okay, so lateral reticular nucleus, ventral reticular nucleus, dorsal reticular nucleus. Okay, so gigantocellular, so many nuclei are there. Sitting this way, but a lot of light is coming from the side. Okay, so these are the group of nuclei which you need to memorize. Once you know the nuclei, what we should know is we should know the afferent and efferent connections. Okay, so the afferent connections are the connections which are coming from some other part of the brain and spinal cord and they are moving towards the reticular formation. So try to learn this picture. The afferent connections are coming from cerebellum, cerebral cortex, corpus luteum, thalamus, spinal cord, sensory pathways, optic, auditory, olfactory, taste. Similarly, we should also know almost same only you will have efferent. That means from the reticular formation, the fibers are going to spinal cord, cerebral cortex, cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus, subthalamus, red nucleus, substantia nigra, and tectum. So once you know the components, what exactly is reticular formation, then we should know the functions. That means you need not elaborate much on the nuclei, just give an overall view, then give the connections and then start giving the functions. Functions only has been emphasized more here in this answer. So in these functions of reticular formation, we have two different types, ascending reticular activating system and descending reticular system. So the ascending reticular activating system, that is nothing but something like ascending tracts what we have studied in the spinal cord. So what are the tracts we have studied? We have studied spinothalamic, isn't it? Anterior spinothalamic, lateral spinothalamic, which will be taking the information to the brain. So similarly, here also we have ascending reticular activating system beginning in the lower part of brainstem okay, which is extending through pons, midbrain, thalamus, and finally it is projecting into the cerebral cortex. Okay, its journey is passing via thalamus and subthalamus. Now, the functions of this reticular ascending reticular activating system, activating, that means this system which is taking the information like this from the brainstem to the cerebral cortex, passing via thalamus and subthalamus. You can see the journey. Okay, so it is actually responsible for arousal, alertness, attention, wakefulness. Okay, generally called as ascending reticular activating system. Okay, suppose if you have exam tomorrow or within 2 days, you will be very active, you will be alert, you will be attentive, you will not even get sleep. So this is all controlled by ascending reticular activating system. Okay, so any type of sensory impulses of proprioception, pain, auditory, visual, taste, all of them are actually carried through this ascending reticular activating system, because you have seen the pathways. It is connected to optic, auditory, olfactory, and taste pathway. No, that's the reason it is like impulses are being perceived by all these pathways. Okay, even the impulses of visceral sensations are also activated through the system. So sympathetic connections also it has, and it is causing the release of adrenaline, which is responsible for arousal mechanism, alert, activeness, attentiveness. Okay. So ascending reticular activating system is responsible for emotional reactions, for learning process, for conditioned reflexes, what we studied in GIT. All this is ascending reticular activating system. So like you have seen the pathways for spinal cord, I am using very repeatedly spinal cord because it was repeated many times. The ascending pathway, that is the anterior and lateral spinal thalamic. Similarly, here also we have classical sensory pathway, ascending reticular activating system. So classical sensory pathway, like sensory pathway, that means again it will move from the lower part, like impulses from the receptors of cerebral cortex via thalamus. Some of the pathways carry impulses of particular sensation, auditory. See, the points are repeated better. Whatever we have studied here, again he is trying to tell you the same thing, but he says like it is specific sensory pathway. Okay, that means the pathways they are like auditory, olfactory. Okay, so all these pathways are traveling to cerebral cortex. That is the ascending tract like thing. So now when you talk about this reticular formation, ascending reticular activating system, now we are still with ascending activating or non-specific sensory pathway. So that means it has many connections with different parts of the brain. These collaterals are there which are projecting to different tracts. In fact, they receive afferents from spinal cord in the form of spino-reticular tract. They also send impulses to almost all areas of cerebral cortex. That means it has multiple connections with almost all parts of the brain. That's the reason it is having so much of activity concerned with alertness, activeness and all. It is controlled by feedback signals from cerebral cortex. Suppose this is activating system. Suppose if inhibitory system is involved, then it will cause the opposite effect. That means it will cause the inhibition of impulses. Basically, ascending reticular system is very, very important for keeping us aroused, alert, awake, attentive. Okay. So suppose if this system, ascending reticular activating system is damaged, then the person will have sleeping sickness or he may go into coma. Is that clear, better? That is all about ascending. Ritika, is that clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Now, descending. See, in the descending, we have two types of systems. Descending reticular system, it has inhibitory and also it has facilitatory. So, in case of descending reticular system, so it also involves, see, now the direction of these tracts will be just reverse better. In ascending, you have seen like it has started in the brainstem and it has moved through thalamus, subthalamus, and then reached cerebral cortex. Descending reticular system will go in opposite direction, reverse. Okay, from the cerebral cortex, then thalamus, subthalamus, then it will go into the brainstem. That is descending. So descending has two types: facilitatory. Facilitatory means which facilitates the activities. What are those? Like movements like exciting the gamma motor neurons in spinal cord. It causes actually increasing the muscle tone. It also facilitates movements of the body. Okay, so suppose if it is actually like descending facilitatory reticular system, if it is triggered more, it is also responsible for exaggerated type of movements, more than required type of movements. Okay, even this is also playing a role in wakefulness and alertness. That means this facilitatory reticular system is almost like ascending reticular activating system. Okay, so the other vegetative functions are it is controlling autonomic functions like cardiac function, blood pressure, respiration, GIT function, body temperature. Whatever you read for facilitatory, I will give you one hint. You have to write quite opposite things for inhibitory. So under inhibitory, you should write reverse like inhibition of the muscle tone, inhibition of the muscular movements. It is responsible for sleepiness. It is all inhibiting data like see here. Descending inhibitory reticular system, it is all decreasing muscle tone. Okay, so decreasing the activity of the motor neurons, decreasing the autonomic nervous functions, decreasing cardiac function, blood pressure, GIT function, and body temperature. So whatever we have studied in like facilitatory reticular activating system that you will write opposite in the inhibitory reticular system. Is that clear, Ritika? Only you have
Yes, ma'am.
agreed. Okay, better. So then, so then we have tetany. Which hormone is responsible, Ritika? What is tetany? Try to think over and tell me.
Uh, Something related to muscle contraction.
Sorry, beta. Can you please repeat?
Something related to muscle contractions.
So muscle contractions. The muscle is in excessive tone. That means it is in a permanent state of contraction. What hormone is responsible for this? What is deficient? Tetany.
Uh, I don't know, ma'am.
You don't remember. Okay, no problem. We studied for calcium metabolism yesterday one hormone. No? Can you just name those hormones? Because the same hormone is here. That's why I'm trying to correlate. Which hormones are responsible for the regulation of calcium in the blood, beta?
Calcitonin and parathormone.
Very good. Parathermone and calcitonin. Very good. Very good. Now, if you just remember parathermone, so yesterday when we were discussing functions of calcium, I told you calcium is also important for muscle contraction, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
That means for regulation of calcium, we require parathermone. Parathermone is increasing
Uh,
calcium levels in the blood. Suppose if parathermone is not there, then the muscle is undergoing into spasm. You call that condition as tetany. Okay, beta? I'll show you one picture.
okay.
This one, beta, carpopedal spasm. This is tetany, hypoparathyroidism. That means parathyroid hormone levels are low in the blood, less in the blood, because of which the muscle is not able to contract properly and it is undergoing a typical spasm. So that condition is nothing but carpopedal spasm, what you see in case of tetany. Okay, beta? So that is the way he has
Okay.
framed the question now. Hypoparathyroidism. It is leading to low calcium levels in the blood. That is hypocalcemia. Okay. The reasons are like removal of suppose thyroid tumor is there and if surgeon is not careful along with thyroid he has also removed the parathyroids because parathyroids where are they located? See, this is the posterior view of thyroid gland. And these are our parathyroids. So surgically, even these glands got removed due to negligence of the surgeon. Sometimes, not always. So that is parathyroidectomy, which has taken place due to defective surgery during the removal of thyroid gland, or sometimes autoantibodies may be formed and they are killing the parathyroid gland. Okay, so deficiency of receptors of parathyroid in the target cells. Then, so hypocalcemia, because of the low calcium levels, the muscle is unable to contract. So that is nothing but tetany. So when calcium levels are falling below 6 milligrams, normally is 12 milligrams, no better. So if it is falling below 6, then only usually we will see this hypocalcemic tetany, where you will see painful muscle spasms. Sometimes when we walk also with high heels, we also experience sometimes some spasm in our foot, something like that. Okay, so because of this, particularly in feet and hand, we will see hyperexcitability of nerves, and skeletal muscle is unable to contract because of calcium deficiency. So this condition is actually excessive neural excitability. It may also lead to fits, convulsions, carpopedal spasm. We are finding a typical caricature of this hand, like flexion at the wrist joint, flexion at the metacarpophalangeal joints, extensions at the interphalangeal joints, and adduction of thumb. So this is typical tetany, what we see in the hand like this. Okay. Then laryngeal stridor.
Okay.
Yeah, beta. In stridor, in the sense, some noisy breathing. Okay. So that is noisy breathing because of loud growing sound during inspiration. Because the laryngeal muscles are also undergoing into spasm. Cardiovascular changes may be there, dilatation of heart, ECG changes, prolonged ST segment, QT interval is changed, abnormal rhythms, arrhythmias, low blood pressure, heart failure, decreased permeability of cell membrane, dry skin. The nails are very much brittle, they are easily broken. Hair loss may be there, fits may be there. The different types of fits are grand mal and petit mal type of seizures, that means fits, okay, epilepsy, mental retardation. So that is latent tetany means that is not so much clinically seen. That means silent type of tetany is actually called as latent tetany. Trousers sign is like spasm what you find in the hand generally after 3 minutes of arresting the blood flow. Suppose you are checking the blood pressure and you have put a cuff. You yourself will feel like chum chum chum, like something like tingling and numbness you feel in your hand, isn't it? That's what is nothing but Trousers sign. Okay, there is one more sign which is called as Chvostek sign, where there is twitch in the facial muscles. Okay, this is all because of the non-availability of calcium for muscle contraction. You can also have this herb sign, okay, where hyperexcitability of skeletal muscles even due to small electrical stimulus. So that is all about tetany, and you are supposed to write about this parath hormone. Okay, what hormone is responsible, beta? Parathormone.
Parathormone.
Okay. So you have to write this thing in detail. Okay. Then factors influencing spermatogenesis. What are the factors, beta? I gave you one table.
Hormone.
Yes, please, beta. Ritika. Yes.
Ma'am.
You are telling something. Can you repeat?
Hormones, ma'am. Hormones.
Sorry, I could not understand. Highlands.
Hormones.
High body temperature will prevent spermatogenesis. Yes. Any other thing?
Uh,
Hormones. You are telling hormones, right?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Actually, hormones, you have to give the list of hormones which are responsible. Those are the factors affecting spermatogenesis. Yeah. Yes. This hormones necessary for spermatogenesis. See, first, basically, spermatogenesis is like you have to give the cycle. So, spermatogenesis. Yes. So see here, spermatogonia type A, they are converted to type B, then primary spermatocytes, secondary spermatocytes, spermatids and sperms. These are the stages. Proliferation, growth, maturation and transformation, for which we require certain hormones, factors affecting spermatogenesis. So what are the various hormones? For stage of proliferation, we require follicle stimulating hormone, growth hormone, stage of growth, testosterone growth hormone, maturation also same,